Hey guys, my name is Caroline. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be trying to do a tutorial on how I draw eyes because I've gotten a few requests on Instagram asking me if I could please do tutorials. So that's what I'm going to do. So now you see me just starting to work on the colored part of the eye. I'm just putting in the lights and the darks so you can see there in the middle that there is a little white spot that is the reflection in the eye. That I think that helps to bring in a lot of life into the eyes. One thing you also need to make sure when drawing eyes is that the top part of the eye needs to be darker, typically, than the bottom part of the eye because it is being cast in shadow from the eyelid and the eye and the eyelashes and whatnot. So that's an important thing to remember when you're drawing eyes and you want it to look more realistic. I'm just darkening up the crease and lightening up the bottom of the eye. And now you see me going in and kind of shading that top part of the eye that I was talking about that needed to be darker. And now I'm just kind of putting in a base layer of the skin color. A good tip when doing this is you want to do it in little circular-ish motions so that it is you don't get just random lines everywhere. It's easier to blend it later on. And it's a good tip to do it with the light hand because if you just start out and do it really like heavily and do it with a heavy hand, it's going to be hard to add layers later. You could always make it darker, but it's kind of hard to make it lighter sometimes. Just blending the pencils with each other, just using the pencils themselves. They're very blendable. It's the Caran d'Ache Luminance colored pencils. They're really good. And I'm also using a black and a brown Faber-Castell Polychromos pencil. They're really good for if you really need to be precise, which you do need to be when you're drawing eyes. Just continuing to create more depth in the eye area. So around the crease and the outer part of the eye, you can't really see that because it's being covered in hair. So that's why it's that dark, because that's also casting a shadow. Making back from the eyes, starting to shade the forehead. And adding some eyelashes even though there weren't really many eyelashes in the reference photo. You could also go in with some blue in the whites of the eyes. That sometimes makes it look a little bit more realistic. It's kind of tricky. You call it the whites of the eyes and it's not really white at all. It's a ton of shades put together. So that's pretty important to remember. Starting on the eyebrows here, you want to make sure that you're not just doing random lines going in all opposite directions. The start of the eyebrow typically has hairs that go straight up And then they kind of lay down more as you go towards the end of the brow. And at the arch, the hairs usually go down. It's hard to sit here and explain that. Probably doesn't make any sense. But just continuing to work on that eyebrow. And here I'm just going in and darkening up a bunch of things. That's the great thing about going light first. You don't have to worry about lightening dark spots that you made too dark and too harsh. And just putting in some lower lashes. Again, you want to make sure you're not just drawing straight lines. They're kind of curved and thicker at the base of the lash, and then they kind of taper out. You don't want to just draw them in randomly. It's a good idea to look at your reference photo. And here I'm just starting on the other eye, and yeah, still darkening up the top of the eye and keeping the bottom a little bit lighter. It's not like it has to be white, but just lighter than the top. And you don't need to get too hung up on the eyes being completely perfectly symmetrical, because not many eyes are. It would look less realistic if they were completely the same. So that's not something you need to worry about. Just make sure it looks like it's the same person's eye, but they don't need to be perfectly symmetrical. And there was a pretty dark shadow there, so I just did that with black, and now I'm going in with some brown to soften it a little bit. And again, doing a little bag under the eye. I don't want to call it a bag. I don't know what it's called other than that. And now I'm just kind of blending that harsh shadow out with a lighter shade, because you don't want any too harsh lines, and that doesn't really look that realistic. Do it if you're not going for realism. And this is not the only way to draw eyes, of course. This is just the way that I like to do it. So yeah, we're getting towards the end of this tutorial, and now we're just needing to do her eyebrow on that side of the face. That'll come up real soon. And again, we want to keep the inner corner of the eye a little bit lighter. But yeah, you can see I'm adding quite a few layers and blending and stuff like that, because it adds a lot of depth. And see, that was what I meant by the eyebrow hairs going sort of down at the arch. So you want to make sure you look at the direction of the hair to make it look the most natural. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial and it made any sense, and leave some comments down below telling me what type of tutorial you'd like to see next time.